We have calendars coming up for September and October, so you can check the website or the flyers to see what we're doing next. Okay. Now I have the fun part, because I didn't introduce Shira. Shira Harrington, of course, is the Chief Engagement Officer for Purposeful Hire, a group that she set up several years ago to previously working for a professional search firm. She's a connector since childhood. She loved bringing people together to realize their mutual benefit. She has a master's in public relations from Maryland, and she realized that successful companies take employee stakeholders seriously, and she wanted to support this all-important stakeholder group for their life's work. Shira and I are connected through the association community, where we've known each other for quite some time. She is also a gift to our organization here at 40 Plus, and is always available when we call. She speaks at a large number of other organizations. I've worked with her personally to help shape my professional profile as I launched my search, and I can tell you that she really did make a difference. Whatever's good about my LinkedIn, and I think there are some good things, that's the stuff Shira wrote, and then the other stuff is what I did. So we're delighted to have her with us and to have her learn more about the things that she's working on and how we can stand out in the search space. So Shira, thank you.
So when I say the word brand, what's some of the definitions that come to mind? Toss out some words. I know we have some marketing communications folks here, so feel free to utilize your expertise. The word brand comes to mind. Toss out some words.
Emotion.
Promotion?
No, emotion.
I'm sorry?
Emotion.
Emotion, yes.
What makes you stand?
What makes you stand out?
Identifiable.
And identifiable, right?
Products where the name of the product is used instead of the generic.
Where the name of the product is used instead of the generic, like Kleenex. Yeah.
A moniker.
A moniker. What else?
Exposure.
Exposure.
Unique value.
They're all great. That's actually what I was looking for. So when you think about this particular brand, we all know what this is. What's the unique value of this brand to the people who appreciate this brand? They appreciate this brand for what?
Simplicity.
Simplicity.
Quality.
Quality. Ergonomics. Design.
Elegance.
Elegance. What about this one? There's a main one for this. Customer service, right? They're always known, right? You know the tire story? So Nordstrom, they famously took back a tire. Nordstrom doesn't sell tires, but they say that they take back anything. They took back a tire, and I actually talked to it's actually a very famous story with them. And this group, value. What is it? What people value?
It's natural.
Natural, right? Environmentally. Good. Three completely different brands, three completely different value propositions. Might one say different audiences, potentially? Right. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because each one of you has a brand, has a unique value, and that's what we're going to talk about today, because whether you know it or not, you, Sin, and you, David, and you, Kate, are all ink. You're all in ink? You are. Because you're selling what? Yourself. Somebody is going to pay you money. Think of the connection. Someone's going to pay you money for your services. So whether you are a W-2 employee or a 1099 worker or a small business owner, somebody is hiring you, correct? We use the same terminology for both employment as well as small business, don't we? Exact same concept. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about this concept of personal brand. And yes, this is a long quote, and yes, I'm going to read it. Is that okay? Okay, can we do that? All right. Okay, here we go. Personal branding is a way of clarifying and communicating what makes you different and special, and using those qualities to guide your career or business decisions. It's about understanding your unique attributes, your strengths, your values, passions, and using them to separate yourself from your competitors or peers. In this sense, personal branding means clearly communicating the unique promise of value that you have to offer your employer or your clients. What does this statement mean to you? Give me a little bit of feedback. What came out for you when you heard that? What does that mean? Does that resonate with you? Does it resonate with you? In what way? Sin.
Separate you from, just like you said, your peers, separate you from men to the boys. You know, you need to have your elevator speech down and be able to know your audience, more
Yes.
importantly, you're speaking to.
Absolutely. You need to know your audience, you need to know your value, you need to be able to articulate it in the way they can hear. That's right. What else does it say to you? Yeah.
For me, the word special stood out because you underlined it. And,
Yeah.
and what that evoked for me is that it's a value that emanates from me, from what's special about me,
Yes.
rather than an attempt to identify and meet a need. And I should be able to do this, or I should be like that. But it
Yeah.
flows from me.
Absolutely. And isn't it an interesting dance that we do in the job search, right? Because here we are today talking about our special value, right? Our individual value. And at the same time, what is the employer looking for? What's the employer looking for when they post that job? They want somebody who's going to be able to fulfill that need. And so, again, the dance is, how does my uniqueness fulfill their unique need? Isn't it an interesting thing that we go through? And again, whether you're a W-2 or a 1099, it's the same dance. And I want you to be thinking about both halves when we're talking to, even though we are talking about the W-2 employment, but there's another way to think about it in terms of if you're doing a small business. So defining your brand. I'm going to give you two concepts here. These are concepts that are kind of signature concepts for me. Some of you might have heard them if you've ever heard me speak before. And I'd like you to take a couple of notes for this particular one, okay? The first is we're going to define what is your tribe. I'm going to define this in a second. And the other one is what is your lane. Your tribe and your lane. These are signature ideas that I want you to hold on to as we discuss what is a brand to you. So here is how I define these two words. I've repurposed them, okay? So I define a tribe as, ready? An industry, mission, or sector. An industry, mission, or sector that you may feel very tied to. Now let me make a really important caveat here. Not everybody has a tribe, and that's okay. And I'll explain it, we'll get into this a little bit more in a second. Let me talk about a lane first. A lane is your profession. It's your occupation. It's what you do in the world. So another way to define this is your tribe is who you serve. Your lane is how you serve. Who you serve and how you serve. Now, why is that important? Well, I want you to think about your job search right now. I want you to think about the last job opening that you looked at, a job posting, job announcement, right? It was with a company, obviously. That company clearly fell into a certain tribe, correct? They all do. Whether it's government, nonprofit, for-profit, environmental, they all identify with a tribe. And then they have this job, right? This JOB that they say, well, we want you to fill this. But isn't it interesting when you look at the requirements section of that job announcement, right there at the bottom, right, it says qualifications, requirements. What's one of the first things that they often say? They don't just say, we want you to have skills in XYZ. They say, we want you to have experience with the industry. Don't they almost all say that?
Yeah.
They don't just want a marketing professional, they want a marketing professional in healthcare. They don't just want a finance professional, they want one in nonprofits. Don't they say this? Why do you think I'm going through this? This is a very important distinction because if you do identify with a tribe, really identify with a tribe, do you think or do you not think that you should be showcasing that tribe to your fellow tribal members? Come on, right? So for example, Ken was mentioning a little bit about my background. I have a few different lanes in my business, okay? I'm a recruiter, I'm a career coach and a career brander, and I'm a generational diversity keynote speaker, and I do some other employee engagement work, okay? Now why am I mentioning that to you? Because I'm going to use myself as an example for this. In my recruiting lane, I have a tribe. Yes, I do. My tribe, as Ken knows, I recruit almost exclusively for trade associations and professional societies. I work for the association community. Now, I always point to Ken when I have this part of this conversation because Ken and I, we connected not through here, not through my job seeker tribe, but because I'm deeply involved in the association community. In fact, this afternoon, I'm going to be leading a meeting of his fellow CEO peers, and we're going to talk about what's keeping up the association sector at night. I can kind of engage in that conversation. Now, can I engage in that conversation in healthcare? Not so much. In law firms? Not so much. In the environmental sustainability world, not so much. But I do have a tribe that I am very, does this make sense? Okay, and I'm sure all of you could have, there's a lingo, there's a tribal lingo, right? That nobody else would understand, but you would understand, right, when you're talking to that other person in the tribe. In my career coaching lane, I'm cross-tribal. I can work with architects and finance people and nonprofit people and all of these different, I can because my skills are repurposable. And I do generational keynote speaking, diversity work. I'm cross-tribal there too, okay? But I'm very clear where I do have a tribe. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Some of you have a tribe. Raise your hand if you have a tribe. Because some of you actually, in your intros, you actually stated it without even realizing it. In your intros, your tribe came right up and forward, okay? But it's also important to know your lane because look, even if you don't have a tribe, you all have a lane. Now maybe your lane is shifting. Maybe you're going from this area to that area, that's okay. You might be a career changer in that regard. But even so, whether your unique value is with your lane and or with your tribe, it needs to be showcased very intentionally and very specifically. And may I just make one more comment? And that is, I know a lot of folks who say, yes, but I don't want to limit myself. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I don't want to pigeon. I don't want to narrow myself. Well, I have a thought for you. People like to hire specialists, not generalists. If you have a leaky faucet, are you calling the plumber or the general handyman? Right? It's the same thing with employers. They want to know that you know who you are and you know what your value is. And sure, it doesn't have to be super, super niche, but the more you can kind of frame it for the world and say, look, this is the language I speak. These are the urgent problems that I solve, and this is who I solve them for, the more attractive you're going to be. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is another way to frame your brand. This is a little bit dark up here. Who you serve, again, is your tribe. How you serve, again, is your lane. But there's two more. Why do you serve? What's your value? What's your why? You know, anybody ever heard of Simon Sinek? Simon Sinek, if you've never heard of him after this meeting, go Google him. He did a very, very famous TED Talk in 2010 that turned into a book, and he's become all the craze. His last name is spelled S-I-N-E-K, Simon Sinek, and he basically talks about the power of why. In fact, speaking of Apple, he uses Apple as his main point in his TED Talk to say Apple became Apple, not because of the what they sold and the how their product worked, but it was because of their why. They developed this mission that people kind of grabbed onto in a way that Microsoft didn't and Lenovo didn't, but they actually developed a following because they had a very deep core why. What is your why? Why do you serve? Why do you serve? And then in what way do you serve? Those are your personal qualities, right? That's the uniqueness that you personally bring to the table. And all of these can come out within your brand in various ways. So the 3 C's of personal branding: clarity. Be clear about who you are and who you ain't, right? As I mentioned earlier, this is about knowing specifically what you are. You cannot be all things to all people in this case. You have to have a very, very distinctive knowing of what you're doing and what you're not doing, even within your lane. Because some of you have lanes that have all kinds of shades. For example, I hear a few people here are in the marketing space. And even more broadly, there's the MAR and the comms and PR, which of course is all kind of melding together these days, isn't it? And are you more into digital marketing? Are you more into market research? Are you more into SEO and SCM? Are you into, my goodness, right? Some of you are generalists, right, in this area. Some of you are deep dive specialists. But even each of your lanes has an element of clarity that your target audience needs to know about you, correct? Okay. Consistency. Steadfastly express your brand across all your communication channels. Your resume and your LinkedIn are the 2 major ones. What are some of your other communication channels?
Cover letter.
Cover letter. What else? There's more, a lot more.
T-shirt.
T-shirts. Sure, it's who I am. What else? Your communication channels?
Cold emails.
Cold emails, interesting, okay.
Business card.
Business card.
Do
More.
you have any social media profiles?
Networking, what?
Social media profiles beyond LinkedIn?
Social media profiles beyond that, absolutely. Thought leadership platforms, blogging, article writing, public speaking, the networking. I mean, my gosh, you can go on and on. But you are carrying your brand everywhere you go, and you need to make sure that all of your stakeholder audiences are hearing the same message across the board. Why? Because you need to be top of mind the next time somebody's talking about you and saying, oh, did you need someone's, you know how the networking thing goes. Oh, somebody hears about an opening. Oh God, you gotta call my friend Ed. Oh, you gotta call Ken. Oh, you gotta call Dave. Why? Because we now know, right, what the brand is, and now they know how to refer you. Okay, you want to be top of mind. And then constancy. Strong brands are always visible to their target audience. Do not hide your light under a bush. Okay, you can't. It's not just to build it and they will come, right? You can't just kind of have it here. You have to make sure that it's out there. And I realize, look, you know, most of us are taught, especially those of us over a certain age, we're taught, oh, don't brag, don't talk about yourself, don't. Come on, who else is going to speak about your value if not you? You can't just have it inside. It can't just be you and your best friend that know what your value is. You've got to come to networking events like this. You need to get up. Well, look, if you're more introverted, use the digital platforms to get your brand out there. If you're more extroverted, use the more face-to-face. Either which way, you've got to get out. Yes? Did I get an amen? Okay, good. Make sure your brand is consistent in your resume, your LinkedIn, and across all social media. That's really the bottom line of all of this. And we're going to go through some examples in a little bit. Okay, this is a signature exercise that I'm going to walk you through right now. And we're going to hope, time dependent, may be able to give you a little bit of a time to work on it, but certainly I'd like you to work on it at home, and I call this passiontivity. This is the find your lane exercise, out of which actually a lot of tribal conversations can happen, but it's a very sort of level set. And what passiontivity is, I made up this term, it's where passion and productivity meet. Where passion and productivity meet. So here we go. So on your piece of paper, if you want to grab a new sheet of paper, you're going to draw two perpendicular lines. At the top of the vertical line, you're going to write high motivation. At the bottom of that line, low motivation. On the right side, high skill. On the left side, low skill. So let me walk you through the quadrants. Here we go. So on the top right, this is where the juice is. High skill, high motivation. In HR, we call this high engagement. The definition of a highly engaged employee is someone who gives discretionary effort above and beyond their basic job duties because they want to, not because they have to. Know what I've ever been in a job like that? You cannot wait this Monday morning. Man, you are driving through the rain, no problem. But you love your job. But on the other side, just because you're not particularly skilled with something doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't grow into it or may want to. So your areas of professional development would be in this quadrant. High motivation, low skill. And let me make a quick distinction in this one. I didn't put this on the slide. You could actually split this box in half. And what you would do is one side of the box would say want to, and the other side would say need to, just for this box. Let me tell you the difference. These are both areas of professional development. Want to areas are the get tos, and the need tos are the have tos. Let me give you an example. Let's take our marketing friends here, okay? So one of you might say, well, look, I would love to be, want to be better at social media strategy. Very likely in this day and age. But some of you and marketers may not be the best with numbers. We know our colleagues, communicator colleagues that aren't so vested in numbers, who might say, yeah, I need to be better at managing budgets. Yeah, right, okay? Now maybe not Tonya, because you said you're very analytical, so maybe you're all good with budgets. But some people might say, right, I want to be better at certain things, I need to be better at others just because of where I am in my career. Does that make sense? Just two different things. And then, on the bottom right, high skill, low motivation is stopgap work. What do I mean by that? These are skills you have. You're fantastic at them. Nobody would deny that. You're great at these things. You don't particularly enjoy doing them, right? Does not get you out of bed in the morning. You will do them and you will not complain and you will be a good foot soldier, but it just really doesn't excite you, okay? So clearly this is not exactly what you want to be. Now, look, legitimately, there are going to be some skills in here you're going to have no choice but to put into your brand just because it's just part of what the employer is looking for and you know that. But it's nothing that you should overly highlight because it's really not in your core. And by the way, where this really matters in your resume in particular. Most people think, erroneously, that your resume should be a laundry list of your accomplishments. No. Your resume needs to be reflecting the accomplishments that relate to your brand, i.e. where you're going, not just where you've been. Let me give you a quick example. I had a coaching client once, and she loves to do, she's in government relations, and she likes to do coalition building and all this advocacy stuff, right? One of her greatest accomplishments was putting together the 50th anniversary gala for a major nonprofit. Now, do you think that that's a big accomplishment? Yeah. Absolutely. I said, Barbara, ixnay off your resume. She goes, oh, what? But it was, I said, it will be brand confusion if you start talking about your event planning skills and still trying to have a government relations advocacy brand. Does that make sense? Doesn't mean that she didn't do a fabulous job. I'm sure maybe it could come up in the interview if needed, because maybe there's something. But I didn't want that to be highlighted all over her resume, because the people would know what she actually wants to do. Does that make sense? Yes, what's your added value? And so you've got to really look at your accomplishment stories very, very carefully to figure out which need to be included and which don't, as it relates to where you're going and the brain you want to set apart. And then here, low skill, low motivation is active disengagement. Why, right? You know this stuff. You're not good at it. You have no desire to be. It really needs to be off your brand completely. In fact, if you did none of this work in your next job, you'd be a happy camper. Know what I'm saying? Okay. Okay. So moving on. So finding your tribe. So let's get a little bit more specific. All right. So let's just say, and we're going to do a little call out here. Is there an industry or mission that you want to serve, or maybe have served, where you can make a significant impact in the world? And why did I actually say make a significant impact in the world? Because I believe that all work should be for one purpose, to serve. Anybody agree with me? It's not about us, right? It's about helping other people, making an impact, a positive impact in the world through the gifts and talents that we've been divinely given. That's what I believe. And so if you look at this, right, what are some of the industries? Now, before I give some examples, I'd like you to call some out. What kind of tribes, my word, mission, industry, have you served or want to serve that you really want to make an impact in? Okay, shout them out.
To live, learn, work, and play in my community.
Okay, so maybe a kind of your local community might be a tribe for you.
Well, but for everybody in the world to live, learn, work, and play in a community like ours.
Sure, absolutely, and that's a passion for you. That's great. Other kinds of tribes.
Financial services.
Financial services.
Government.
Government.
Healthcare.
Higher education, healthcare. Law firm. Okay, so I would say communications PR is actually a lane. It's what you do. Now, working for a PR communications firm, that might be a little bit more of a tribe, right? Because that it kind of has its own industry flavor. Are there other tribes? Environment, philanthropy. And in the government, by the way, so interesting, you've got what I'll call big tribes and little tribes. Right? So you've got the government as a very big tribe. I think of someone back there said government. Any particular type of agency or type of tribe in the government, or just
Treasury.
What?
Treasury Department.
Treasury. Great. Yeah. What else?
Entertainment.
Entertainment. Yeah. Education. Yeah. All right. So here are some examples. Right. Nonprofit, healthcare, environment, government, contracting, commercial real estate, education. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And again, you could have sub-tribes and villages and all those different things. Because look, it can get very, very niche, correct?
Yes.
So look at the 270 corridor. So meaning, for those who are watching by video, I'm referring to a major highway in the Washington, D.C. area that some people call the biotech corridor. And the biotech corridor. Well, that's not just healthcare. How detailed, how many tribes and villages could we split that whole corridor up into, right? From the tech world and the genome world, and I mean, my gosh, it goes on and on. You have to know who specifically you want to serve, unless you want to do a little bit broader and you want to call yourself a healthcare plus a lane. That's okay. But look, if you really have something very niche, this is the time to let the world know. Okay. So there is a big difference between serving a tribe and serving a lane. Why? Because employers want to know where you fit in. Now, I'm going to go, and where there's the last part of us talking about this right now. We'll move on. When you are doing your networking, okay, how many of you have ever networked with people in a particular tribe? What tribe?
HR. Communication, health communications.
Health communications. Actually, I have someone to refer to you, by the way, to connect you to. That's interesting that you said that. So health communications. Now, you didn't just say communications. Right. You said health communications. Health communications is the health part is a particular tribe. So what SIN, right?
Yes.
So what SIN, and I'm sure you could elaborate even more than I could. But for example, in health communications, right? Oftentimes it's within, sometimes it can be within the nonprofit sector where people are trying to communicate, they're doing a grant proposal to the
NIH,
government,
CDC.
NIH, CDC, right, they want to do a cooperative agreement, something like that, and they need to communicate the mission, right, of the organization or the outcomes that they're going to try to perform in a way that this government can hear. Now, that's specifically to look at health outcomes, but you have to be a communicator, right, to be able to win that grant. But it's very different than if you're going to be doing communications for a law firm, or communications for the financial services sector, or communications for the environmental sector, or sustainability, or any of the other things that came up today. Do you see what I'm talking about? Don't you think that the employer who's a in the hospital or a healthcare nonprofit, right, wouldn't want someone on the resume to say healthcare communications as opposed to just communications? Do you see the difference? They really, really want to know, are you part of their tribe? Yes, we want to know your skill set, we want to know your lane, but we need to know that you can connect the dots between the two. Is this sinking in? Do you see why I'm going over this so much? Really important. Now, if you don't have a tribe, no problem. There are some people, for example, in your world, who belong to, which you may also, the PRSA, Public Relations Society of America. There's a lovely DC chapter. They're cross-tribal, a lot of them. They do PR comms for just about anybody, no problem, no problem. Now, what those folks will do is they will try to emphasize the skill set, and maybe among those PR communications people, bless you, you might have somebody who's really deep into media relations, really deep into social media strategy, something like that, right? And they might want to uplift part of their lane skills because they're not tribal, and that's fine. Because not everybody needs to have the tribal, not every employer needs that, but some do, and if that employer says we need tribal, don't you think you want to be out there already saying that you know how to speak their language? Get it? Okay. So, the questions that are going to define your brand. This is huge, and I want you to write this down. And by the way, this is as important if you are starting a small business or doing freelance work as it is if you are a W-2 employee. What urgent, I notice I put that in caps, super important. What urgent problem or problems is or are facing my target employer, or tribe in this case, that I am in a unique position to help them solve? Why do you think I put the word urgent there instead of just saying what problems can you solve? Why do you think?
So you can cause action from their side to hire you.
People only hire people to solve urgent problems, not just problems. Anybody ever been in sales? Or know people in sales? Okay. Anybody heard of something called a long sales cycle? Oftentimes something is a long sales cycle because the problem isn't that urgent. Now, you could be because it's a lot of money, but oftentimes, well, we know we have a problem, but we're just not quite ready to pay for it yet. But an urgent problem, we need to backfill that job yesterday. We have an absolute urgent need. So you need to be thinking about what urgent problems can you help an employer solve? And especially if that's tribal, but not necessarily. It could be very much in your lane. But you're like, if you need somebody to, think about it. Think about an employer, you're sitting down in an interview, and you're asking about the opportunity, beyond the job description. You're saying, what's this job really about? What are the immediate goals, the challenges that I'll be solving tomorrow? And they go, well, glad you asked. Oh, yeah, start up this new database, and we gotta get funding, we gotta this, we gotta, and they get very animated, right? That means the problem is urgent. The more animated they get, the more urgent it is, okay? And then, under what conditions would someone pay me to fix their problems? Right? Under what conditions would they pay me, right? What has to be going on in that employer for them to think that they need somebody like me? Okay, so for example, take human resources. I didn't think that anybody was, I had an OD person, but HR, okay? If you are an employer with under 40 employees, chances are you don't need to, in fact, I would even recommend, you don't hire a full-time HR person. Why? Anybody know anything about HR? Why would you not need to hire somebody for full-time HR?
It's not a critical mass.
It's not a critical mass. Yeah, you just don't have enough, going on. You have 100 people, 200 people, yeah, you need one, maybe even more than one person. That's a condition under which I would need an HR person would need to be hired. You need to know that about your own profession. You need to know the conditions under which someone would want to hire you as opposed to maybe hiring you as a consultant. Think of it that way. A person under 40 employees and they want HR support, they're probably going to what? Outsource it. course they will, because they don't have enough of a critical mass, right, that need for it every day.
Can I ask you a question
Yes,
about all that?
yeah.
In the olden days.
In the good old days.
In the olden days before the social media and websites, you know, that's what I was taught when I was a young person, you know, get the company or the nonprofit's annual report.
Mhm.
And that would give you a lot of indication of, you know, present viability.
Yes.
Future predictions on
Yes.
where they're moving towards.
Yes.
Now I feel sometimes when I'm trying to accomplish that same thing to answer those questions, like, what's your problem going to be
Yes.
that I'm going to come to fix? I need to know,
Yes.
you know, do you have money for expansion? Are you
Right.
going to run more programs?
That's
Blah,
right.
blah, blah. But sometimes I feel like it's, okay, so coming here, one person said, don't just read the website.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to people,
Yes, yes.
get to know the culture,
Yes.
and don't research them on LinkedIn because they can see that you've researched them on LinkedIn. Research them through other vehicles or other routes.
That particular one I would disagree with, and here's why. And I understand why some people might give that.
Because you're like looking for a job with somebody and you research them in a convenient, I guess they
That
feel
is
like
actually-
you haven't done enough work, because that's kind of.
No, so my opinion on this, the LinkedIn piece, actually, is it's a good thing.
To research them.
Yes, because when somebody's, if they even can, I mean, some people can't actually even see that you looked at them, just depends on their premium status. But even so, let's just say they can figure it out. Most employers that I know would say, great, she's doing her homework. You're being proactive, that's actually a very good thing. And they're like, great, she's doing her research, she's trying to figure us out, she's using by any means necessary to do it. That means she's a proactive person.
Yeah, they said do it, Google them instead of researching them through LinkedIn because.
I actually think it's a feather in your cap when they've seen that you have looked at them. Yes, because it's showing your initiative.
And then, so my bigger thing is it just seems like trying to crunch the information seems like such an overwhelming amount of information to consume to try to get a handle on what's the problem they have or where they're going.
Sure.
That I want to be.
Think of it. I mean, look, you can organize your thoughts any which way, spreadsheet or whatever. But think of it not necessarily just in the macro sense. You're right, that could be overwhelming. Think of it more importantly in light of what you do in the world. So what's your field?
My field is education.
Specifically?
I've been working with the disability population.
Okay, so you're an educator.
Educator.
Okay. Within this, so in that light, right? If you're going to be looking at, let's just say it's a nonprofit, more than likely, you want to be looking at their agenda specifically in your area. Now, of course, it could be a disability nonprofit, in which case it's going to be broader, but it may not be. And so you don't have to kind of conquer the world. You can take a slice of the pie and figure out what specific problems within their mission are they trying to solve that you can help them solve. You don't have to know everything. Now, of course, it's good to know the macro concept of generally where they're going, but it's all about where do you plug in? How can you specifically make a difference? You don't need to be climbing all up into every contract they ever had, right? But more about what problems are they trying to solve that you can help them solve. That's kind of my broader answer to that. Just go deep. Just feel free to pick a lane. Okay. Any other questions? So how to showcase your brand, right? So we talked about this a minute. Obviously, there's your resume. Of course, there's your LinkedIn profile. Oh, let me back up a second. Your LinkedIn profile. When I say profile, I'm going to break this down into at least two parts. There's other parts too, but these are the two main. Your summary section and your experience section. Now, yes, there are other pieces. Your headline is very important. Your picture is very important. No Facebook photos. No cutting somebody else's arm off when you're trying to hug them. None of that. None of that. Totally professional headshot. So your headline is important. Your summary and your experience, two different things. Now, the experience section, quote unquote, in LinkedIn is what? It's your resume, correct? It's your resume. You want to make sure that it's consistent with what you have on the resume that you sent to others. Now, there's a slight distinction here because your resume actually needs to be customized for every opportunity. Every, not most, every. So you might say, well, but wait, I've got to customize this, but my LinkedIn is static. And that's right, there is a bit of a dance there. So what you kind of want to do is you want to take the core from your resume, that which is generally, you're pretty much always going to be sending, and make sure that that goes into your LinkedIn experience. Meaning your LinkedIn experience section shouldn't just be your company title dates. or even just a couple lines about what you did, feel free to include some accomplishment bullets. Hello. If a recruiter is looking at your LinkedIn profile, which oftentimes they do before they even see your resume, do people know this? Did you know that 97% of recruiters use LinkedIn for their searching? 67% use it exclusively. Don't even use the job boards anymore. In fact, even as in my own searches, many times I won't post a job on the job boards. A lot of times I will literally go straight into LinkedIn, look at somebody's profile, make a determination if I want to reach out to that person. Then when I've talked to them, I say, oh, by the way, can you send me a resume? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question regarding this. I've been approached by recruiters, and every time I get a cold approach, I go and ask them, what stood out in my profile that triggered you to email me or to message me? And they go like, oh, the company, the degree,
That's right.
sometimes the role. They never ever mention the accomplishments.
Right.
So like, I'm puzzled now how much of those accomplishments I have to list, because they don't read. They have 6 seconds to skim.
You're absolutely, I'm going to say yes and to your question. I'm going to give you a yes and
Okay.
response, okay?
And I love the end part.
It's the end part. It's the end part. The yes part to respond to you is this. When a recruiter has the 6 seconds to scan, their first cut of making a decision whether to reach out to you, absolutely. The company, the title, the degree, foreign language, whatever it is that they're, some certification that you have, absolutely. That's gonna lead them to say, ooh, is this somebody that I should reach out to? And if they're just going for the masses, like bing, 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 they just want to spread some seeds around, you're right, that's the only thing they're gonna look for. However, if they're doing an intensive search, especially one that's a little more at executive level, something that really requires some depth in terms of the skill set, they will do the first cut, then they'll go to the second cut. Now, you may not have actually engaged anybody yet who's gone to the second cut, but the second cut is, wait a second, maybe I have a pile of 50 people who all fit my first cut, and I can't afford to, as a recruiter, take the time to reach out to them. I go back and say, let's go a little bit deeper here. Let's see what accomplishments they put in. Let's see what keywords they're using. Let's see how they describe themselves. And also in the summary section, because the summary section, by the way, and it's a misnomer. They say summary. You know what people think you should write? A summary of your experience. No. Your experience section is a summary of your experience. Your summary section actually should be a compelling narrative that tells people where you're going, tells people who you're serving, how you're serving, why you're serving, in what way. It should be an aspirational message as much as it is past-based. And yes, you can bring in some of your past experience, but that's not about saying, I've got 25 plus more years of work. Yeah, they can see that in the experience. They want to know something that they can't see in the experience. This is the proverbial tell me about yourself question. Don't we all love that one? We're like, we get all tongue-tied. This is a beautiful place for you to untie your tongue and say something meaningful and compelling. Now, if you do that in your summary section, and that recruiter is doing the 6-second glance, and they see something very meaningful there, you know what? And they might actually stop. And instead of just blowing through to the next person, like, whoa, what is this? This is interesting.
Your little list again about what's in there. You said who you're serving.
Yeah, so who is, it's kind of the who, what, where kind of thing, right? So who you're serving, how you're serving, in what ways you're serving, why you want to serve, all those things. Okay? Tribe, your lane. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples in a minute of ones that I do, because I'm a copywriter and I happen to write ones, and you can write them any way you want. I'll give you some examples of my work. But this is not understated. But you're right. A lot of times they will do the quick glance, but sometimes they will actually go deeper. And if they do go deeper, you want to be ready. By the way, that's also for the cover letter. I'm going to just throw that one in for free. I'm going to say one statement twice with 2 different emphases. Employers only read cover letters 2% of the time. But let me state that a slightly different way. Employers read cover letters 2% of the time. Therefore, if you're going to write one, write it well. Does that make sense? Right? But my point, though, is that the cover letter is the same thing with the accomplishment thing. They may or may not read it, but if they do, be ready. The majority won't, but some will. And that's what you need ready for. Yeah.
Okay, for the experience section, again, how many jobs do you list and how many accomplishments per job?
That's a great question. Your LinkedIn is actually going to be a little bit different than your resume. First of all, your LinkedIn doesn't give you an unlimited space to write. I happen to know for the summary, and I'm going to answer your question in a second. The summary section, you get 2,000 characters, which is about 300 words. That's the summary. I don't actually, I should figure it out somehow. I do this enough. I don't know exactly how many words or how many characters you get for the job description part, but it's limited, okay? It's not short. You have like that much space. So typically you can fit in 3 or 4 accomplishments, something like that, and you don't necessarily go on forever. So for LinkedIn, I think 3 or 4 accomplishments is perfectly fine. Your resume could have more, now not 15. And by the way, with your resume, it's very appropriate to have, and people use different terminology for this. Some people call it a modular resume, some people call it a master resume, kind of the kitchen sink, right? Nobody ever sees it, but it's sitting there in your profile just in case, so you can pull, your accomplishments from it to customize for a job. But for your LinkedIn, because you can't do that, you kind of have the one shot, and you can tweak it every once in a while, but for the most part, it's static. 3 or 4 is what you want to be looking for. Yeah.
But essentially, are you saying that the LinkedIn profile, it's not going to be as in-depth as your resume? So it's going to be, are you saying more than like 2 or 3 sentences?
Absolutely, correct. Yeah, you don't want to just say the little, responsible for 3 lines. You say that, but actually underneath it, have 3 or 4 accomplishment stories that back up, right, what you do. Very straightforward, okay. Thought leadership. When I say thought leadership, what comes to mind? What do you think of? What does that mean to you? Thought leadership.
You're an expert in the space.
You're an expert in the space. And you're trying to move the space forward, correct? Try to take it from where it is to where it's going, because we're always evolving. So what are some of the ways that you could express your thought leadership?
Right.
Write something where?
You can blog and write an article, submit it. You can get on a panel discussion. You can get, you can do, communications. You can do
Yes.
interviews.
Yes. Everything you said and more, right?
You'd be a thought leader.
You'd be bothered, yeah. Go to LinkedIn groups. Go blog. Go, if you are a social media person, go beyond Facebook, right? Twitter, Instagram, free publications, networking events, speaking opportunities. Yeah, be on the panel. A lot of different things you can do. The possibilities are almost endless. If you have something to say, you gotta have something to say, which means you need to be passionate enough and knowledgeable enough about your tribe and or your lane. So for example, in the association world, and this has nothing to do with the HR stuff that I do, I happen to be, and I know Ken is too, very much about trying to solve this crisis in the association world, which is all about disruption. The association tribe, like many tribes, are being disrupted. Who isn't being disrupted? But they're being disrupted in a very particular way in terms of membership numbers and all these different things. So I like to kind of play in that world, right? We have these interesting conversations, and it's just kind of cool, right? That has nothing to do with my HR role, but it actually demonstrates my commitment to solving the crisis there. However, it'd be very different if I were to go and talk to recruiters who are my lane people, right? And specifically talk about what are the challenges facing the recruiting sector right now. I would have a very different kind of conversation, right? And I'm sure you guys could too, but you've got to be thinking about who are you targeting? What thought leadership do you want to put out there? Who needs to hear what you have to say? Because look, when you're doing this, you're swimming with the fish. Now I'm going to give you a little kind of analogy here, and I like to say, when you're building your thought leadership, you need to be, watch this, you need to be a purple fish in a sea of goldfish. What in the world do I mean by that? Okay, here's the goldfish. So SIN, right? I don't know if you remember PRSA or network with them. Okay, so PRSA, Public Relations Society of America, you're all these COMSy people. The Public Relations Society of America is one of the groups I'm sure associations that SIN is a part of, because she's in comms. So you're all goldfish in the sense that, look, you look like each other, you talk the same general lingo, but one of you, namely you're the healthcare girl. You're the purple fish in the sea of all those goldfish. But this other person over here is the environmental communications person. They're a purple fish in a sea of goldfish. What do I mean by the purple fish? It's what makes you unique. Goes back to the first slide. What makes you special? Networking with people that know you, like you, trust you, and where you can have a lovely tribal conversation is all lovely. But why you? What makes you different in the sea of sameness? Think about that for a minute, yeah.
But there's a careful balance, though, because you don't want to become too unique. Because, I
No,
mean, there's
it's-
other communications, environmental people, so if you're all purple, you're all purple.
Well,
So-
actually, that's very interesting you say that, because you're right. If you were to siphon off all your purple people, now you all become goldfish again. Do you see how this works? And then you can become another purple fish in that sea goldfish. So, for example, Senna, offline, I'll give you a colleague of mine who's in your space. You might even know her, right?
I think we have 11 friends in common.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. I do a lot of comms work. But anyway, so you and this other person, right, could connect and go, oh, wow, health comms, right? You're going to talk this like lingo that nobody else would understand. But even between the two of you, you're going to find distinguishers, right? Oh, she specializes here, you specialize here. Maybe you're not exactly looking for the same job, kind of, sort of, and right? You have areas of expertise. Your subject matter expert, a SME, S-M-E. Yeah, exactly. Your lanes might be slightly different, or your tribal expertise might be slightly different. Maybe you're more biotech and she's more hospital. I don't know. You're both health comms, but do you see? You're always a purple fish to some sea of goldfish. So always be thinking, what's your differentiator, depending upon the room that you're in. And here, in this very mixed environment, the only thing that really binds us all together here is you're all job seekers. But you're all a bunch of purple fish in that regard, because you're all distinctive from each other, primarily, okay? Okay, resume links. So I'm going to give you a couple of samples here. Now, caveat to all this. So as I mentioned, I am a career coach and I'm a career brander. Okay? I'm about to show you a sample of one of my resumes. It is proprietary. I'm happy to show it to you on the screen. I would kindly request that you not take a picture of it. You're welcome to look at it, and because it is proprietary, I can't share it with you online, but you're happy. I want to show you the concept of it. And by the way, you don't have to use this style. I happen to like this style, and a lot of recruiters do, because it's a hybrid, right? It showcases your lane or your tribe or both, and it's very, very keyword focused, and it labels every accomplishment. Oh, you know what? I actually didn't pull up the right thing. Give me one second, please. That's my LinkedIn. So this is a redacted. This is a generic site. This is a real resume, but it's genericized. And I want to walk you through this really quickly. So you see the top headline? I'm a big believer in the headline. Why? Because it's like an advertising document. Quickly states what you're all about. Now, this is, I said, IT executive. Well, let's say he was in the, well, we've been using healthcare, the healthcare space. Couldn't I just easily say healthcare IT executive? Of course I could. You see, it's the tribe and the lane if you're a tribal person, but you don't have to be if you're not. Over here, business strategist, technology visionary, C-suite advisor. Let me say something about this. To me, while it's important, or can be important, to sort of describe yourself, kind of who you're being, let me tell you this, recruiters do not pay much attention to this. They might look at it, in fact, that's why I have it as sort of a nod, but you'll notice that there's no kind of summary paragraph, there's not a lot of soft skills in here, oh, I'm analytical, strategic, this and that. That's kind of a whoosh for recruiters. Like, yeah, they kind of skip over. It's nice to see it as just kind of a quick hit, but other than that, it's a little bit of wasted real estate. What they're really looking for are the keywords. They're looking for the keywords. And I will talk about the formatting of this in a second, because I know some of you are thinking, how am I going to get this through the applicant tracking system? I'll address that in a second. I know where you're going. I've done this a couple times. But for the moment, okay, just bear with me. So I use a text box concept, which I know some of you do, and you have these keywords here. And then the keywords, right, what makes this distinctive is that every accomplishment is labeled with a keyword. And not only that, you can flip-flop. You can, because English has a lot of synonyms to it. So if and this is the example that I like to give, is let's say the job announcement that you're looking at says they want event planning experience, but you use the term meeting planning experience. For all intents and purposes, that's a very similar skills. You may want to just flip it out, right? And so you have to really look down at the job posting to see what specific keywords and terminology do they use, and then marry that up within your resume. And then you see it just keeps on going like that. Now, can you add things to this? Of course, you know, under education, you can have your community service experience, your volunteer leadership experience, certifications, all kinds of publications if you're more academic, you know. But this is the core of it, okay? To show people, look, this is a very elegantly designed resume, right? It makes it very easy on the eye. That 2.5 seconds that it takes for the employer to look down, it's very easy. It's not, there's enough white space here, but more importantly, the labels are really what gets people. And I've had a lot of recruiters come back and say, wow, this was a really interesting design. In fact, I had this one client who she, about 6 months before she started working with me, she applied for a job, an executive job. The company didn't even write her back and using her old resume. 6 months later, she works with me. We write this resume together. The job was open for some reason. She submits, they respond, they hired her. Okay, I'm telling you, a well-designed resume, you don't have to use the style. I'm just saying, a well-designed resume, a captivating resume can make you stand out from the pile because they're reading hundreds of them. You need to stand out. Yes.
It's just one page, right?
This is actually 2 pages.
Okay.
Let me address that real quick because I know there are going to be some technical questions that people will ask about this. Forget the 1-page resume. I'm pretty emphatic about that. The only time that anybody in this town should be writing a 1-page resume is if you are a recent college grad, and even the recent college grads often our times are going into 2 pages because they have so much experience. If you only have these days, if you only have a 1-page resume, it actually it lessens the gravitas of your experience. You want to have a weighty, you want to actually showcase the fact that you're an experienced person and that you have something really good to showcase. Now, 2 pages is perfectly acceptable. In fact, I'd say almost required. Should you go into 3? You can go into 3. It's not like if a recruiter's looking at a 3-page resume and says, well, I'm not going to, 3 pages, I'm not going to screen this out. You can do 3, it's okay. And you know why? Because back in the day, the reason why the 1- and 2-page resume was stated was when we had to mail them in. And the poor recruiters had all these pieces of paper in front of them, and they didn't want to have to go through, right, all this volume of paper. So they're the ones who start saying, 1 page, keep it simple. Now, what do? They scroll. What's the difference between 2 and 3 pages? And by the way, in the government contracting world, they actually want more than that. Government contractor recruiters will tell you this because government contract resumes are actually being sent to the government. And the government wants reams and reams and reams and every time you tie shoelaces, okay? The other, of course, example with other exception to that would be academia, right? Because they want a CV and they want, publications and all that. You had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight what you just shared now. With no matter the years of experience, you still want to know the audience that you are addressing.
Yes.
Because while in DC area, you'll be perfectly well with 2, 3, or 4 pages resume, especially with the government contractors.
Yeah.
If you move, for example, to California and Silicon Valley, there you want to squeeze your experience as much as possible into 1 page for 2 reasons. One, that you want to highlight really just the relevant skills that you're bringing to the new sector, new industry, or a new type of company. 2, you want to be aware of the ageism, because the more that you add on the experience, the more the years you talk, they go like, this person is beyond our millennial range, and minimizes the options to be.
You're absolutely right, and it's both geographically oriented, it's industry focused. I mean, look, let's say you were in the entertainment field, or in fashion, or in the graphics world. The resumes look different. Some people add pictures. You have to add a picture in entertainment. So yeah, absolutely. So it has to be customized for the target audience. Around here, for the most part, this kind of thing works. Yeah.
I was just going to add, so I have 2 resumes, one very similar to this. I have the benefit of having, full disclosure, a husband works in HR.
Yeah.
And so his friends were like, oh, take a look at
Yeah.
this. So I let them give me this.
Great.
But what I didn't know was that there are machines that they feed them into that
Yes,
spit stuff out.
Talk about
So
that.
I'm, obviously want to know about LinkedIn because my LinkedIn needs to match, but I feel like I have 2 stellar resumes and a great bio. But I was like, wow.
So let's talk about this for a moment. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. The advantage of technology in the world of recruiting for recruiters is that, hey, we don't have to use all this paper anymore. The disadvantage is that with the hit of the send button, now, for years now, they've had volumes and volumes and volumes of resumes. So they had no choice, somebody had no choice, but to come up with an applicant tracking system, an ATS. There's lots of different brands out there. Let me just say for the record, no recruiter likes their ATS. None of them do. They're all kind of clunky. And one of the main reasons why they don't like it is because they can't find you like they're supposed to be able to find you. Literally, you guys are talking past each other. This piece of technology that's supposed to help them find you is not, because the algorithms are not designed for modern resumes. So for example, something like this with the border and the text box and the whole thing could get eaten for lunch by an applicant tracking system. And so let me kind of say
And
this.
it's the 2 resumes that they gave me for that reason. Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you, I'm going to give you 3 ways, okay, that you could turn, whether it's this resume or your resume, into an ATS acceptable format. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect, but I'm going to give you the 3 options, okay, and the pros and the cons. So first of all, you could take a resume like this and you can turn it into a PDF. If you turn it into a PDF, of course it's a picture and it will not get gobbledygook up. On the other hand, their ATS may or may not pick up on the keywords. Okay. Option number 2, you leave it as a Word doc, okay, and the ATS will pick up the keywords, but it might mess up the formatting. Option number 3 is you turn it into plain text, which of course is the most boring vanilla thing you've ever seen in your life, but the ATS will absolutely pick up all the keywords. Okay, none of these are ideal. It's true. I wish I had the panacea for it.
You can't read the words in the PDF.
In a PDF, some can and some can't. You kind of hit or miss. Sometimes when you are filling out these applications, when it comes to the submit section, sometimes the employer will actually say, please upload your resume as a something or a something, and then you kind of go with whatever it is. But always know that keywords are really what they're looking for. But let me go one step beyond that. After 11:30, right? So let me go one step beyond that. Put aside the applicant tracking system for a second. Because in this ATS, yes, what the database is trying to do is to say to the recruiter, look, Mr. Recruiter, Ms. Recruiter, you put in these keywords, you're looking for this person with these skills. Here are the 100 people that actually fit in order of importance. That doesn't necessarily mean that because you came up 95 that you weren't the best qualified. It's just the algorithm. So to get around the whole thing, not that you shouldn't apply, you have to do what they say, apply. But you really need to show up before your resume does. And how do you do that? Through networking. By getting an internal champion to march that resume over to the hiring manager, preferably HR or the recruiter secondarily, and you can do that through LinkedIn. I do a whole training on that. It's a whole other story, but it is not hard to do. To pop in the name of the company, find out who works there. Hopefully it's the HR, hopefully your second level connected to, if not the hiring manager, then somebody close to the hiring manager, and you leverage your first level contacts to get your resume to show up in addition to popping it into the database. Why? Because you want them to airlift your resume out of that database and say, look, she's actually worth talking to. Okay? Show up before your resume. All right, I want to keep, yes?
Just a quick ad for those who are interested to figure out the ATS. The website called jobscan.co will provide you with the opportunity to compare the language on your resume with the language on the job description and the percentage of the compatibility, giving you the options to adjust that. And this can go only in the situations when you did not have time to informally network, connect with the organization, but you just love the job and you don't want to miss the opportunity. Just quick. Yeah.
What's it called?
Jobscan.co.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
You get 5 free scans a month for free.
You're just saying, yeah.
Is there a golden or fast rule about going back beyond 10 years?
Yes, I get that question a lot. Sort of. You're talking the age discrimination thing.
Right.
Look, if you are trying to showcase the fact that you are more at an executive level, more or less, if you only go back 10 years, you're actually going to look too light. Now, that's for most jobs around here. Put Silicon Valley aside because they're the opposite. But mostly around here, that's too light. That's going to make you look lightweight. So going back 20 years is perfectly fine. More than 20 years, kind of teetering on the border there, okay, 25 maybe. But if you have experience that because of the place that you worked or the job titles that you held that's prior to that and you actually want to get it out there, you could have a section at the bottom of your resume called prior experience, and all you do is company title, no dates. Yes, it'll show that you've worked longer than the 20 years, but it doesn't say exactly how many years. Kind of leaves it to the imagination. That's only if you really have to. Otherwise, I keep it to about 20-esque, something like that. All right, really quick, we don't have much time. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the LinkedIn summary. Remember I said how the LinkedIn summary should be compelling? Okay. Again, I happen to be a copywriter. This is my particular style. You do not have to do it like this. Okay, I just want to show you a very, very different way to write a LinkedIn profile that could showcase your tribe, your lane, kind of your value, and do it in a compelling way. I'm going to give you 2 examples. I am going to read very, very quickly.
Can we take a picture of this?
Yes, this you can. This you can, absolutely. No problem. In fact, I would have actually, if we were not videotaping this, I would have actually shown the 2 people that this represents. So this person, I'm calling this an association tribal person, and her lane, her profession is in membership. Okay, so this is what I wrote. I'm a value creator. Value isn't cheap, yet in the digital world, it's increasingly free. So when an association makes its pitch, the ROI of engagement must be front and center in order to compete in a world that believes membership is an outdated concept. How I create membership value? By developing segmented programs that address the unique needs of each member demographic, by inspiring raving brand ambassadors among our volunteers, members, and staff, by marketing programs in a way that honors our members' time and their freedom of choice, by delivering educational events that leave members feeling their price of entry was priceless. Skills I bring to the table: strategic planning, road mapping a vision that aligns action steps with accountability, program development, conceptualizing new programs starting with the end in mind, team leadership, empowering groups to stretch their talents within a safe peer community, event planning, innovating content that ignites learning, networking, and creative thinking, staff management, coaching, motivating, and leading toward opportunities yet to be imagined. About me: I'm collaborative, relationship-focused, and a great listener. I'm intuitive to the needs about the needs of my team and customize my style to theirs. I'm a voracious thinker and invite healthy discussion about every side of an issue. I'm relentless about pushing boundaries so that others can experience greatness. Let's continue the value discussion. Email address. Okay? 2,000 characters. You can use this real estate wisely. If you guys are copywriters, great. If you're not, use a friend, use a me, use a somebody, but get something that speaks to your value proposition in a way that's not just 25 years of vanilla experience, okay? Say something meaningful. Next one, last one, PR. This is a lean person, right? No tribe, cross-tribal. An organization's relationship with its stakeholders must be focused on serving their needs in the context of an authentic and transparent relationship, not simply spinning a positive image. Today's constituents are savvy consumers who crave transparency and authenticity. I am an authentic communicator in a world of hype. What I do, I develop digital strategy that responds to constituents' core needs so that an organization can genuinely serve. Great communication is about investing with an audience for a long-term relationship of give and take, share and receive. I quickly grasp the core issues of a business and its constituents to serve both authentically. Effective communication is about research first, strategy second. As a trusted advisor to executives, I'm the voice of the constituent. Only when executives know their constituents' perspectives can they make an informed response. My PR philosophy. You can get philosophical. Be a thought leader in your profile. Go for it. If you are one, go say something. Constituents will share their needs when they trust an organization has their best interests at heart. Authenticity is communicated in an ongoing conversation, not in one-off messaging. People are overloaded with stimuli. They want on-demand information when and where they need it. Media relations is a thing of the past. Social media should be about creating community, period. Crisis PR can be avoided by telling the truth early, and then several notable accomplishments, won awards for developing 75 websites, etc. Do you see how different this is? And there's lots and lots of ways you can pretty this up and do whatever you want, but my point here is that you really, really, really want to say something meaningful because you're going to stand out from your competition. Does this make sense?
You're talking about the summary section in the LinkedIn?
I am talking about the summary section in the LinkedIn. This goes under your headline. And we haven't talked about the headline, but you can only, the headline also, you have more characters. I don't even remember how much it is, but you have more characters than you think you do. You don't have to just put your job title. You can put something a little bit compelling about helping such and such a industry solve such and such a kind of problem. All that's fine. But the summary section right underneath that, again, you don't know that they have the 2,000 characters. That's where all of that stuff goes. Okay? All right, and then if we had time for group exercises, which we don't, but this, of course, could be homework, go offline with some colleagues. Do you have a tribe with which you strongly affiliate? What is your link? And then again, what is the urgent problem that you're in a unique position to help solve? So 2 more minutes. Any last minute questions? Yes.
Is it possible we get a copy of your
Yes.
PowerPoint?
Yes. In fact, it's on your computer now, so you can go ahead and
Sure.
yes, you can share it with your colleagues. Yes.
Is there a longer version of these workshops?
Well, yes, there is and could be, depending upon how 40 Plus wants to do it, but absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I actually have pieces of this that I break out, just the resume, just the LinkedIn, but I can do something that's much more of a half day.
So it exists, or?
Well, it's something that I do in various forms around the region. Just depends. So this particular one was kind of more of an amalgamation, but this also can be, and I have spread this out and sort of done this in longer chunks. And so it's something that I guess 40 Plus would have to talk about if you wanted something, if you wanted me or someone else to do this in a longer version. Yes, it exists.
But if you already have it, is there a schedule?
No, it's not. It's just as I'm invited.
So share that on your feedback.
Yeah, share that on the feedback.
Yeah, just the summaries that you went over seem a little counterintuitive because over the years I see that people are actually spending less time reading.
So here, I'm so glad you brought that up. This is actually the exact same question that the woman in the back talked about in terms of the scanning thing, right? Here's the deal. The recruiter is not going to read that first. They are going to scan your title and your company name. But if they like what they see and they actually want to take you just from the quick scan to a deeper scan, that's when they're going to take the time to read this. This is really only for the people who care about this. Remember the question, tell me about yourself?
Yeah.
But the tell me about yourself question is typically asked in the interview or even in a networking situation. They're only going to ask you that if they actually want to have a conversation with you, whether it's a networking colleague or whether it's an interview. It's the same thing here. You're giving them a taste test. If they have an interest,
So if they like what they see,
if they like what they see, otherwise, then they'll go back onto the top and they'll read it. They're not going to, thank you for saying that. Even though it shows up before the experience, they're not going to read it first. They're going to scan all the way down and go pop back up and say, oh, wait, I like what I see here. What does this guy have to say about himself?
Good.
Yes.
When you know someone is using one of these ATS systems and they're going to scan a resume,
Yes.
what do you think about just putting a little box that says keywords and hitting just all the...
So you know what? There is actually a school of thought. I don't disagree with this, and I know it's going to sound a little shady, but it's really not. Some people do what's called a white box. Anybody heard of this? Let me tell you what it is. It's actually okay, and I'll tell you why it's okay in a second if you use it in a particular way. The white box concept goes like this: you submit a regular Word doc resume. It has to be Word doc, and you create a text box. And you put all these keywords in that you know need to be in there. You take off the box, the frame, and you turn the letters white, so that I'll explain in a second. Don't throw tomatoes at me yet. Hold on. So that the ATS can read these keywords. This is the way that I believe it's okay to use them. This is the condition under which, if those keywords are legit. You already have them mentioned other places in your resume. You absolutely have those. They are yours. You just want to help the algorithm to really extra see it, and instead of stating it 500 times in your experience, you just add it again right in that text box just to help it get to the top of it. That's it. But it has to be legitimate.
The number of times the word?
Yes.
So Google found companies using that in their websites years ago, and they started penalizing them. So I don't know if that's an ATS.
Look, I mean, there's no perfect anything.
But they
at your
used to use that.
at your own risk. It's a possibility. Just think about it. Personal choice. But again, if the words are okay, I think morally, I think it's okay if it's otherwise legitimate. Other questions? Okay. So here's how you can connect with me. I am an open networker on LinkedIn, so feel free to send me a LinkedIn invitation. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, want to talk about anything. I'm happy to engage.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. My first?
Yeah. All right, before we break, first of all, first timers, raise your hand one more time. First timers, yeah, well, look at that big group. Meet Tom. Tom's going to talk to you next door. I want to remind you of 3 dates that are upcoming. because 40 Plus, as a very small, volunteer-driven nonprofit organization, like so many other organizations, we rely on collaboration. So we collaborate with many different organizations. So I want to share 3 dates with you. September 21, next Friday, is a career fair down in Springfield, Virginia, put on by our friends at Corporate Gray. The purpose of Corporate Gray is to help our proud men and women who are transitioning from the military into the private sector or perhaps with the government. It's a terrific opportunity. There are great companies that participate there. You don't have to be a veteran to attend. It's free to attend. It's in the morning on the 21st. Springfield, Virginia. Corporate Gray with an A, GRAY.org for more information. The following week, Tuesday, September 26th. That's a Tuesday. Our friends at Women in Technology are putting together their fall career fair out in Tyson's Corner. It's in the afternoon, 4 to 7. Again, a fantastic array of companies, all in the tech space broadly, from small government contracting on up to Microsoft, Sony, SAP, and so forth. So if you have a specialty in technology or you do contracts or something like that, Women in Technology is a fantastic event. And then lastly, please join us for our own celebration, October 22nd, just around the corner at Prequel, which is an interesting incubator restaurant space at 19th and I. It's going to be in the late evening or late afternoon, 6 to 8:30 p.m. It's really a celebration. We're going to mark our 65th anniversary, recognize the incredible volunteers that have made it possible for 40 Plus to be here today. We're going to we'll look backwards a little bit, but we're going to look to today and to tomorrow under Edmondson's leadership and driving our organization forward. So mark your calendars for that. The details are on the website as well.
What day is that again?
Excuse me?
What day is that?
October 22nd, Monday, October 22nd, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., just around the corner at Prequel, which is at 19th and I. And
If I
again,
can
you can
mention
find
Bumerworks?
the more website. Please.
So I started a nonprofit to specifically help folks over the age of 50 to re-career into the gig economy, to become freelancers and small business owners. It's a completely free service. It's called Boomerworks, boomerworks.org. We recently finished up a boot camp. We hope to do another one. But in the meantime, we actually have launched meetup groups, and 40 Plus has graciously partnered with us, and Ken actually facilitated a meetup group here a couple weeks ago, basically right at this time, like in the next room, right after this meeting. We're hoping to launch them all around the region, here in Laurel and Tysons and Bethesda and all around. If you are interested at all exploring this world of self-employment, we have this community that we have been building for you guys in terms of education and, again, peer networking. So feel free to let Ken know if that's something you're interested in, because the next time we do one here, I don't know exactly when that'll be, hopefully soon. Ken will be hopefully continue to facilitate it, and again, it'll be right here. But again, if you go to if you email us at info@boomerworks.org, boomerworks.org, let us know you want to be part of the mailing list, and we can let you know when our next meetups are going to be coming up. In other words, to fit wherever you live in the region.
Thank you all. Again, please share your feedback. We do a little drawing at the end of the month for a gift card, but we really take it very seriously. And we want to improve and meet the needs that you have for additional programs and speakers. Thank you all for coming. I hope to see you, if not on Thursday evening of this week, Monday, same time next week. Thanks again.
Thank you. You have your answers for the